Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm going to explain about directives, JSP directives. The JSP directives are the messages that tell the web container how to translate a JSP page into the corresponding servlet. And JSP directives don't produce any output on the browser directly. These JSP directives are used to add some additional behavior to servlet during translating the JSP to servlet. In JSP, we have following three directives: include directive, page directive, and tag loop directive. Um, the syntax of JSP directive is greater than symbol, percentile, at the rate, directive, then attribute equal to value. The JSP page directive defines attributes that apply to an entire JSP page. So first I'll discuss about the include directive. Include directive Include directive is used to include the code of one JSP to other JSP during translation time. If we include one JSP to another JSP, then during translation time, the JSP engine creates a single servlet internally. If we write the include directive, then the code of one JSP is included to another JSP, but not the response at runtime. So we call the include directive as a static including or compile time including or inline including. In a single JSP page, we can include any number of other JSPs. It means we don't have any restriction. And while including both source and destination pages must be JSP pages only. And in include directive, we have only one attribute, and that is called the file attribute. That is greater than symbol, percentile, at the rate, include file equal to resource name. So this is the example for include directive HTML body percentile greater than percentile at the rate include file equal to header.html. Then today is this is the greater than percentile equal to java.util.calendar.getInstance.getTime. That is, this include directive will include the file header.html in this code. And what are the advantages of include directive? Code reusability. Only code reusability is the advantage of include directive. And the include directive reduces the burden on server because of multiple JSPs internally. Only one servlet is created. For multiple JSPs internally, only one servlet is created and one object is created. It means number of servlet objects are reduced. So burden on the server is also reduced. And next one is the page directive. What is a page directive? Actually, page directive defines attributes that apply to an entire JSP page. Syntax of JSP page directive is percentile greater than percentile at the rate page attribute equal to value. Excuse me. Page directive is for setting important behavior to a servlet during translation, and the important behavior means like exception handling, session management, importing packages, MIME type settings, etc. And there are many attributes for the page directive. The attributes of JSP page directive are import attribute, content type, extends, info, buffer, language, is EL ignored, is thread safe, auto flush, session, page encoding, error page, and is error page. So now we'll discuss one by one. The import attribute is used to import class, interface, or all the members of a package. It is similar to import keyword in Java, class, or interface. And the import attribute is used to import either predefined or user-defined packages into JSP. While importing the packages into JSP, we can import anywhere in the JSP, that is at the beginning of JSP, or in the middle of JSP, or at the end of JSP. And we can import multiple packages also at the time by separating package names with comma or semicolon. Even though we import the packages at multiple places in JSP, but during translation, all the imports are placed on the top of the servlet. The only one attribute of page directive that can be repeated with different values is the import attribute. So the syntax for import attribute is greater than symbol percentile at the rate page import equal to java.util.stars, java.sql.star. You can import any number of packages. And next is the content type. Content type content type attribute defines the MIME, that is multipurpose internet mail extension type of HTTP response, and the default value of content type is text/HTML char set equal to ISO-8859-1. This content type attribute is used to set MIME type for the response, and the default MIME type is text/HTML. And if we want to set the MIME type in JSP, then we have two ways. We can call the set content type using content type attribute, and the syntax for this is greater than symbol percentile at the rate page content type equal to text/HTML, or greater than symbol percentile response dot set content type of text/XML or HTML. So this is about content type. Next is the extends attribute. The extends attribute defines the parent class that will be inherited by the generated servlet, and it is rarely used. This extends attribute is used to provide the class name from which we want to extend the internal servlet class. And when JSP is converted into equivalent servlet, then internal servlet class extends some base class which is provided by the container. Instead of extending from the container the given class, we can also specify our class name by writing extends attribute. Then if we want to specify our class name, then our class name should extend the server given class, or our class should extend HTTP servlet and it should implement HTTP JSP page interface. In case of Tomcat server, the class name should extend HTTP base class, or the class name should extend the HTTP servlet and it should implement HTTP JSP page interface. Public class name extends HTTP JSP base, and public class name extends HTTP servlet implements HTTP JSP page. This is about extends attribute, and next is the info attribute. Info attribute simply sets the information of the JSP page which is retrieved later by using getServletInfo method of servlet interface. Info attribute is used to write the description for JSP page. We can also write description by using comment tags, but it is not possible to read the description written in comment tags. In case of info attribute, we can read the comment or description whenever it is required by calling a method called getServletInfo method. Next is the buffer method. And the default value of this buffer attribute is 8 KB, 8 kilobytes, and we can increase or decrease the buffer size by using buffer attribute. In JSP, we use an implicit object buffer for generating response called out, and out is an object of JSP writer class, and it makes use of buffer internally. JSP writer is similar to print writer, but difference is print writer does not use buffer, whereas JSP writer makes use of buffer. That is, JSP writer is equal to print writer plus buffer. And a buffer is like cache memory, and when first time an application is executed, then it makes some slow performance, but from next time onwards it increases the performance of application. In a JSP page, we can do the buffer settings by using the buffer attribute. And if you want to make JSP writer equal to print writer, we should make the buffer attribute as none. That is greater than symbol percentile at the rate page buffer equal to none. Automatically, the data from buffer will be copied to response object by internally calling the flush method. And we can also explicitly call flush method by using out.flush method. And this is the example for buffer attribute greater than symbol percentile at the rate page buffer equal to 16 KB, and today is greater than symbol percentile equal to new java.util.date. Next is the language attribute. And okay, language attribute specifies the scripting language used in the JSP page. The default value is Java. This language attribute is given to provide the language supported by JSP tags. The default language and only supported language is Java. The syntax is greater than symbol percentile at the rate page language equal to Java. And next attribute is el ignore. And what is this is el ignore? Yes, is el ignored is we can ignore the expression language el in JSP by the is el ignored attribute. By default, its value is false. That is, expression language is enabled by default. And we see expression language later. And the syntax is person greater than percentile at the rate page is el ignored equal to true. Now el will be ignored. Is el ignored in a JSP by default, expression language is disabled. By default, expression language is disabled and the el will not be executed. And the default value of is el ignored is true. If you make this attribute as false, then el will be executed. And next is the is thread safe. And, is thread safe default value for each thread safe attribute is true, but by depending on the value of each thread safe, a container allows either multiple threads or single thread to access the JSP page. If we write each thread safe equal to false, then container allows single thread at a time to access the JSP page. If each thread safe equal to true, then container allows multiple threads to access the JSP at a time. And if we write is thread safe equal to false, then the internal roulette created by the container implements single thread model interface. Next is error page. Now what is an error page? While executing the JSP, if any exception is occurred, then that exception stack trace will be printed on the client browser. If we want to transfer the control to another JSP, whenever an exception is occurred in the current JSP page, then we need to add error page attribute of page directive. If we add error page to JSP, then control is transferred to error page only if an exception is occurred, otherwise control will not be transferred. If we add error page attribute for page directive in JSP, then we call it as a local exception handling. And this is the example for error page attribute. Greater than percentile at the rate page error page equal to my error page dot JSP. That is, whenever you divide a number, that is 100 divided by 0, whenever an exception is generated, then the error page, then the control will be transferred to this my error page dot JSP. Is error page attribute. Is error page attribute is used to declare that the current page is the error page. Is error page attribute is used to make a JSP as an error page, and the default value of this attribute is false. That is, by default, a JSP page is not acting as an error page. If we write is error page equal to true, then that JSP is acting as an error page. If JSP is acting as error page, then only an implicit object called exception is available in that JSP page. Otherwise, we cannot access or use the exception object in the JSP page. And this is the syntax for is error page attribute. That is, whenever is error page is true only, then we can declare that the current page is the error page. That is the exception. This is the error page. That is, sorry, an exception occurred. The exception is percentile equal to exception. So this is about the page directive. So I'll continue in the next class. Hope you understood about this page directive.